And we are live. Wonderful. Okay. So this is the part that is so important to me. This 2027 shift, and yeah, it goes very deep. It's that what's interesting to me is that I'm just going to have to turn off the YouTube. Wonderful. Okay. So this is silent. There we go. Okay. So Ra, who talked about all of this, he died in 2010. So he already talked about this shift of 2027 in 2008. That's a long time ago in terms of all the shifts we're doing in life at the moment, especially the last 2 years. So I'll start with the things he says, and then I'll talk about where it all comes from. And this is also why he pushed so much that we know our strategy and we know our authority and that we teach it to our children. Because the background frequency that goes through everything, that goes into every nook and cranny, is going to change. It's going to change at the beginning of February 2027. And I think it's around the 8th. I don't know the exact moment. But we're already, of course, the more sensitive we are, the more likely we are to actually feel what the change is. And it's, let me just show you this here. So now at the moment, we're not really talking about individual. Where is it? We're not about talking about us as individuals and how we operate or how we relate to others as much as the really big scene. So we're talking here from 16,000 BC to almost 4,000 AD. And what you see is that this is all about background frequency. You see how we have the cross of the Sphinx and the cross of the vessel of love, which influence all of this whole time era. And then the cross of the vessel of love and the cross of Sphinx swap places, but it's still the same that affect this whole era. And they just keep on swapping places, affecting a whole era. And we are right now down here. So it's the cross of the vessel of love and the cross of the Sphinx, which are locks. They're called locks, and they correspond to the Celtic festivals. They correspond to the equinox and the solstices, etc. And then there are keys, the keys that unlock this. And the keys keep on changing every 411 years. So right now we are in the keys that are called the cross of planning and the cross of the Maya. And these keys are changing into the cross of the sleeping phoenix and the cross of penetration. That's what's happening in 2027. The last change was in 411 years ago. Okay. So what actually does that mean for our life? I'm just checking my notes here. So what will happen is that we're moving from the cross of planning. The cross of planning is in these 400 years, we were able to plan electricity. We were able to plan logistics. We were able to plan insurances, social security, plan nations and create governments. So really big organizations that work, cities we planned, that work because of this planning. And what we're seeing now is all of this crumbling. And Ra said that actually the first thing that crumbles will be the educational system. And this is why we have this drive for homeschooling, and we have, weird things happening in our educational system. It's not what it was so long ago. So we're going away from stability, we're going away from patterns, and we're moving to the existential. Let me just think, we're moving to penetration and this living phoenix, yes. So if we operate correctly, we'll be okay. We'll be okay because we'll be following our inner authority, because we cannot trust insurances, we cannot trust our government, we cannot trust the educational system, we cannot trust any of that. It's all falling apart. We cannot trust our doctors. Nobody, we're so used to following something and being told what to do and so on. And that doesn't work anymore. We cannot trust anything outside of ourselves. The only thing each person can do is trusting ourselves. And there's something else that has happened in these 411 years. Before those 411 years, 1781, I think it was, or something like that, we were seven-centered beings. And we are now, us, have been born into a transitionary time. And as of 2027, the children that are born will be fully nine-centered beings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'll just show you a picture. Here we go, just so you get a visual. We are so used to seeing this seven-centered being, and this is what we're moving to fully. All these centers are becoming more and more alive, and more aware. And what was before that being that was before those 400 years was mostly generators. We didn't have projectors back then. So there's a huge change in how we are as people. We were, before then, it was generators, it was doing, it was, and so we had all these teachings of Buddha and so on, going into how to be instead of do. And I think what we're moving into, my personal view, is we're moving into being while doing, or doing while being, simultaneously. So I'm just going to show you something else. This movement from seven-centered to nine-centered. Show you some diagrams here. So this is the seven-centered linked to these organs, and moving to the nine-centered. And this is one of the very original chakra centers. This is the limbic system, the intuitive system, and the beings that were born before the 1781 were very intuitive, very instinctual. And this was how they were aware. This is one of the three awareness centers. And then what started happening is that the ajna center started becoming self-aware. So we started being able to be aware of ourselves, observing ourselves. And then what's happening now is that the emotional center is becoming an awareness center. So we're not just feeling emotions and thinking that this is what we are and how it is. We are actually becoming aware of our emotions. We're not identifying with our emotions anymore. Just like up here, we're not identifying with the self. We are able to see ourselves observe ourselves from the outside. Here we are able to observe our emotions without identifying with them. And I find it very interesting that I was talking about this, teaching this, and wrote my book on this way before I knew anything about human design, that emotions are information. It's not just something that happens, but each emotion carries an information.
So just yesterday, and this is the first time, because I'm new to human design, right? And I know that frustration is a sign for me, right? And I had a thought at a moment, something had happened, and I went, oh, I'm so frustrated. And I stopped and I went, oh, I'm acting incorrectly, right?
Well,
Isn't
what it
that
is,
what that
you didn't, it's not that you're acting incorrectly, it's that you did not use your authority or your strategy. And if I remember correctly, your strategy is emotional, isn't it? Your authority is emotional?
Yes, emotional, yeah.
Yeah. So that means that actually you would need to wait until you have clarity, until you decide to do whatever you did that then created frustration. So if you had taken that, made that choice according to your strategy, which is to respond to something rather than decide for yourself to do something, wait to respond, and wait until you have emotional clarity, then you will never be frustrated anymore.
That makes such perfect sense. I was so, it was a moment of, oh, I'm seeing, I'm witnessing.
That's so cool. Yeah. So witnessing the emotions and seeing them as signposts and information. Oh, super cool, Michelle.
Consciously. Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Yes.
My moment.
Yeah. It's if generators radically stick to taking decisions all along for a week, you'll get it. You'll see it. Projectors need to wait much longer until they really get it, half a year, until they can see the results, and reflectors need to wait 14 months. And will radically take decisions according to strategy and authority until they see results. So you and I were very lucky.
I can't wait for anything. I have to.
You're a manifesting generator, aren't you? Yeah. Yeah, that's the tricky bit for you. Yeah.
I know. I have a family and they're all manifestors.
Wow. So they all just do what comes out from within themselves. Wow.
Yeah.
That is
crazy. And
that
they're
is quite
crazy
something.
busy, like very difficult to give them signposts or anything of what your visions
Yeah,
are.
no, you can't. You can just sit back and enjoy the manifestor and know that whatever he's doing is right because it comes from within themselves. Yeah. There's no influence in the manifest.
It's very interesting to journal.
Yeah.
Because they're
Lorenz, Lorenz, do you have anything to add at this moment?
No. It's a wonderful ride through what's going to happen in 27.
Yeah.
And where it all comes from.
Well, my children's father is a sleeping phoenix.
Oh, that's great, because he will feel very comfortable in what's coming. we'll go into that in just a moment. I also wanted to show you what's happening on the level of the arrows. And I think I've showed this at some point before, because what we're doing is we're moving from the strategic, from the active, from being observed, from being focused. We're moving through this system to being passive, receptive, observing, being the observer, and peripheral. So anybody who's got all 4 arrows on their charts to the right is going to be able to have an easier time to communicate with the new children. And the children will be very different. So the focused, strategic, active, and observe, that's more like the 7-centered being. And this is more like the 9-centered being. And this is, I've got 4 arrows to the right. And for me, it's quite difficult to be logical, strategical, focused. You know, the way that it's almost feels mental to me, the way you express things and the way you are in life. And this here is more like a well. You're taking in all. And on the very physical level, there's a change that's happening in the neurocortex, in the visual cortex, from having this focus, the eyes are focused, to the eyes being open. And that has an effect on everything. So the new beings, or the people with 4 arrows, the more arrows you have to the right, the more you are taking in the peripheral rather than single data points.
So I'm just one above you. I have to the right, but the one bottom left arrow.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. So I love working with Lorenz, because sometimes I just have difficulties expressing myself. You may find that too, Michelle, right? It's just, does it come out right? Does it come out in a logical sequence? Does it come out that sounds like a system? No, not when I talk so much. I really have to work hard at that. And Lorenz has more arrows to the left. So Lorenz is able to bring precise data and a systematic approach to how things come across, how things are organized in the brain.
So that explains where I get my I just know from.
Yeah. And what happens is that if I get the right questions, I can respond to them and I'll find that answer somewhere in my field, but it won't necessarily come out from myself. And so the answer also comes on the level of where the question is posed.
Okay.
Yeah, it's sometimes very interesting to observe how there is, I'm aware that Una knows something. Like I may have a question about the situation, and I know that Una has the answer, and I'm waiting for her to talk to me about the situation and give me the answer, but it doesn't come out of her unless I ask. And because I work a little bit different in that case, it was a little bit of an adjustment to just ask a bit more questions to get out what other people would just be able to, or would just naturally talk about themselves. So it's interesting how these interact.
Yeah, it's the way Ra describes this is, and I really loved that because it felt so right to me. It's like being a well, and the people have to come with their bucket to take water out of my well, and it'll be the right water for them. Yeah.
Makes sense.
So again, not good, not bad, but just the way it is. And in terms of 2027, this is what the children will be mostly like. They will seem actually like they're autistic, is what Ra said. And funnily enough, we are seeing more and more autistic people, children being born. Well, he put it down to, well, I'm not sure. There's this definition of autism in the medical field, but he says there's a mechanical thing where the new children will seem like there's something wrong with them, and the parents will perhaps put them into institutions or kill them off, or whatever you do with children like that you feel there's something wrong with. I don't know, these institutions will sort of break down too. And the new children, when you put 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 children together, up to the penta, when you put them together, there'll be a group consciousness that happens, and they will be very focused, and they'll have a lot of force, a force to be reckoned with. So I think the way I interpret that is that these new children, it'll be worth experimenting with what happens when we put 2 babies, 2 little children together into the same aura.
I had when Selena and Charlie were little, I ran a daycare, and I had normally 5 or 6 kids, and then there were a couple that came part-time or after school. But yeah, they'd all function when they were doing the same thing. They were cohesive in their energies, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, so you already saw that coming. So then the next thing, the penta, we haven't talked about that specifically, but the penta, it's when you have more than 5 people in a group, then as of 6, it tends to split into 2 groups. Maybe you saw that in the daycare too, or you go to the party and you observe that. Yeah. So it's up to 5. Yeah, up to 5 people can be a force. And then as of 6, you have 2 groups that will create 2 forces. And then it continues, and we'll talk about that some other time.
Yeah, they've done the scientific formulation of the pentacork. I think I sent some of that information to you, Lorenz, about the penta. So the penta has the God particle, which is the toe, and the toe is the decay of how the energetic spirit and the energy level source.
I think that's a little bit too deep right now. We won't go into that right now. And I really don't want to go into the penta in detail right now. I want to really focus on 2027 so that we can get all of that.
I was kind of coming towards the 27, is that it's gone into the Trojan, into the Triton. So the Triton has already come through, which splits into the toe decay. And when you talk about the children of the 27, I've kind of been breathing into it, into the program, about how that system of the mutation, and putting a couple of ideas out into the field around how the destiny could be in a more supported and loving, with no anxiety and fear of what's approaching and this approach. So yeah, I'm just kind of just feeling to bring into this conversation around how the discoveries are still coming through, and when it comes to the quantum field, there's still lots of communication. I think that the information is available. We feel in our hearts, and also allow our auric to be able to bring in these templates and designs that are still available.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. And this is also why, I mean, you have, Marama, you have the vessel of love, don't you? And that's going to be so important, that love, that we do everything with love. And I'm going to get there very soon. So, yes, the rave children, Ra Uru Hu calls them the rave children, and they will have no qualms about only being concerned with themselves. So what we have built with all this cross of planning is that we come from a place where we are concerned with other people. We have charity. Charity is a big thing in our era, and all that will disappear. The new children may seem to have muscle development issues. They may have vision issues. They may have acoustic issues. They may be inarticulate. We already saw that from the arrows. So all these issues may be really, really hard for parents to deal with. And what I see, so this is not from Ra Uru Hu, is that this non-logic communication will work really well from non-words, not using words, but communicating with downloads. And I'm sure many of you know what that feels like, to get a download where you can get a whole book in just 2 minutes, and you can't say word for word what happens, but you know it. You already know it. It comes just as a knowledge into you, through you. And I think this is, again, me personally, it is to avoid AI infiltration, because AI infiltration comes through words that are placed into your mind and through the AI reading the words in our mind. And what I suspect is that the AI will not be able to deal with whole downloads, but only with that strategic, logical part of our mind. Then one thing that the new background frequency will try and do is to create emotional bonds that orient us to a partner that would terminate humans. And this is from Ra, from many years ago. And he says it's about bringing something else through. And he says some of us will survive. I just find it astounding that he said this 14 years ago. Some of us will survive, but the drive, what we need to pay attention to is that there'll be a drive to bond with people where the offspring will create something that is not human in our sense of being a human.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Really?
To put it into context, the same happened 400 years ago. So 400 years ago, we had projectors coming in which were completely new. And maybe it's not the same because history doesn't repeat, right? But it's not like the program has suddenly become evil. The program is just a program. Right now, the program with its background frequency is creating cities, is creating governments, is creating all this structure for this charity stuff. And some of this we have a connotation that's positive to. And now to a lot of this connotation, the positivity falls away. So the next program is it's gonna be different. And yes, Ra says we are basically a dying species. It's not to fight against that because it's bad. It's more like we were never the program. Even now, this background frequency is not to be identified with. So already now the solution for what's happening is strategy and authority, and that's not going to change. So strategy and authority kind of makes it possible to distinguish between this body with its mechanics that is running with the program, and at the same time having the ability to discern that there is something else, that there is this entity, or however you want to call it, that can observe how you did, right? When you suddenly are frustrated and you go, aha. So the system is frustrated and you're able to observe it. And it's going to be the same with the new program, which has a completely different structure, a completely different background frequency, and that's why everything crumbles that was built on the background frequency that we have now. So yeah, we live in a truly tremendous part of the time space to be able to observe this
because you're witnessing both.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and he says that this change that we're doing now is the biggest change that can happen in that bigger time scale structure, and that is because we're moving from the new gates, the new keys and locks that are important. There will be none in the collective. So we have the collective circuits, we have the individual circuits and the tribe circuits, and there's a subdivision here, but it will be mostly individual. We will have 5 out of 8 keys will be in individuality, which is why so much will be about you personally or the immediate tribe, the immediate people around you, rather than the collective. So, and before, now we had a lot in the collective. So who will do well? People with like arrows to the right will do well. People with in their profile have a 6 will do well, and we haven't talked about profile and lines yet, but we'll do that. So if you have a 6 somewhere in your profile, that will be very advantageous. And let's see, he said that people, mental projectors, I'll have to show you this. Here we are. So mental projectors with this channel from the 23 to the 43, which is the channel that keeps on saying, I know, and wants to express itself because I know what's right, I know what's needed, I know something that I want to share. And And people with this middle channel, it's white here, this middle channel, which is the channel of struggle, they will do well. Yeah.
I had a theory that I've been kind of interested in, where the 27 and that there would be the locks would be changing to the next keys. I had that, what was singing from my heart was that the planner and the sleeping phoenix, and then with the lock, that the noise, the background noise would still be there together, that they would be in Trinity. So you would have the past, the present with the lock, and then you would have the future, which would be the Trinity. So then if you took the Sphinx, who had the Maya and the penetration, they would be another Trinity. And if you join them together, they would become duality, because you would have two mirroring each other. They would be making and forming a Merkaba, if it was spun, to then have the tunnel that would be spinning and doing in that formation. So that would be the duality of how it could still have all this background. This is something that came to my mind about how could this be a narrative of a possibility that could still be there, instead of that we move, and how the narrative is at the moment, of that it would cut off that background of the tribe who are creating all these beautiful sovereign gardens and communities and tribes. They would still, because they've already been unlocked, they wouldn't need to be unlocked. They're already unlocked. It would just bring into the penetration and the sleeping phoenix, who are protective. They're very good at networking. So I kind of looked at them as kind of a guardianship or protection already of the sovereign tribe that are created to build a strengthening.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess in the end we will see how it turns out when it happens.
Yeah.
How the energy truly shifts. If I extrapolate from the small to the bigger, then I can observe right now how the sun shifts from one gate to the next, and how the energy shifts if the sun does that. So it will be very interesting to see how it will work. I mean, it's once in a lot of time that we have the ability to observe that. Will be very interesting.
Yeah,
I'm
and
just talking
sorry.
quite kind of like in a fantasy mindset. And there
I
would be a
think,
lot of work, but
let's talk about that when we're done with YouTube. I think, there's definitely very interesting stuff in there. Let's get the basics done for everybody first. And so now I'm trying to find where I was. Let's just go with this picture. So everybody has a cross, the incarnation cross, and the incarnation cross comes from where your sun and your earth is placed. So the top two, the top two planets, sun and earth. So this is the cross of the vessel of love. Now, this cross of the vessel of love coincides, like I said before, with we are here at the beginning of Libra with the equinox. This here is the other equinox, and here we have the solstices. So this is why we have the cross of the vessel of love. And then in between, we have the cross of the vessel of the Sphinx. So these are the other four celebrations of the Celtic cross: Imbolc, Beltane, etc. And all these two crosses come from the G center. So this cross is about direction. These four gates are about direction, and these four gates are about love. So this is where, when we can open this love, when we can unlock this love, and when we can unlock the direction, we'll be in a good place. So who can unlock these? Who can unlock these gates? And this is here. For this, we would need to go back to I will take this one. So these are the yellow here, the red ciphers on the yellow here on the wheel of the gates are these crosses. So we have the cross of the vessel of love, and we have the cross of the Sphinx that knows the direction. And what's turning now is we are going from these keys to these keys. These are gates. So what used to unlock the pattern, 16 used to unlock the pattern, now it will be gate 20. So if you have gate 20 in your chart, you'll be able to unlock this pattern. So this white cross, 2034 and 5559, is the cross of the sleeping phoenix. And 54, 53, 57, 51 are the keys that will unlock the direction, the background direction. So let's look at where they are in the chart.
Okay, what equal 12?
Pardon?
Just looking at that, would equal 12. So, yeah, I have to look at that.
So this is the cross of the sleeping phoenix, this big thing that we're moving to. These are the keys that will unlock the background frequency. And this here is a full channel. This is the manifesting generator channel. So people with this channel will be quite a force to deal with, as well as this key and this key. Where we are right now is we're in the cross of planning, where we have this channel, and you can see all this planning. It's coming from this channel, and this channel is about family. It's about bargains. It's about being part of something bigger, being part of a whole, based on bargains, based on distributing resources. And we're moving to the strength of the busyness channel and the being in the now. So the 34 is busy, 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 and the 20 is in the now, busy in the now. So it's almost a little bit like sleepwalking. Lorenz, do you have anything on that?
Nope. All good.
So on the other side, we are moving from the cross of the Maya with these keys that will unlock to the cross of penetration. Here we go. So no full channel, just individual gates that will have an influence.
And I think Ra describes it as you will be sought after, I believe are his words, for good or for bad. It's again, it's always a potential in human design.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, I've had a couple of engagements, not knowing that it was human design information, but these individuals had a pheromone that was very attractive. And then I find that they are keys. That, like you
yes,
said, they're very sought after.
yeah. This is the channel of charisma. So that would make absolute sense.
Yeah, and I mean, we had the opportunity to observe somebody who had the cross of planning now, and I would say it's safe to say that this person was very sought after for a long time, and something seems to be changing a little bit. So yeah, it's gonna be also interesting how the people who had the keys now will deal with the change.
True.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you have a break between the brown part, like I don't have a complete scoop there.
So this is we're talking here only about the lines, the channel and the gates. So you can fully ignore centers, whether they're defined or undefined.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay.
Just look at this channel with the two gates and this gate and this gate. I just happened to take this picture from somebody who has these defined. So
okay.
Yeah, nothing to do with that.
Okay.
Here I have a neutral one. The cross of the sleeping. Okay. Yeah, this is what we're really talking about.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so when we're talking about the crosses, just to reiterate, it's always the incarnation cross, specific, the keys and the locks are specific incarnation crosses, and incarnation cross is always the sun and the earth, both on the design side and on the personality side. So it makes up 4 gates. That's what you see here in the picture.
Okay.
What he says is, and I find this all interesting too, from spiritual talk, we always talk about we are all one. Well, this we are all one comes from this wanting to be part of something bigger, that channel from the heart to the solar plexus, this we belong together and we have to plan together. And he says that we're moving from we are all one to find your inner truth. You are on your own. And so it's really moving to an individual core process. And I see that happening in many friends that I have, that they're saying, there's no truth outside of myself. Can't believe anything you're reading or seeing these days.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah.
I'm just having a look at my children's father's a sleeping phoenix, and at his chart, and that red line 20, is it 20 to 2034? Is it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. His is definitely indicated on his chart. Yeah.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
has all those. Yeah, he has all that.
But he has to. If he has, if anybody has the cross of the sleeping phoenix, then you will have these two gates, this gate and this gate. This is what makes up the sleeping phoenix. So here you can see it. You have this cross is the sleeping phoenix.
Yeah. Oh, I can't show you. I don't know if I could even put it up, his chart, but yeah.
Yeah, let's move on to what do I have here? Yes, the work and leisure pattern will move to being busy, 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 because that's the background frequency. Just being busy for the sake of being busy. And there's nothing wrong with that. And we're moving from people being able to express their talents for the higher good of everybody, and moving from logic and wisdom and details to something that is very existential. It could even be obsessive materialism. It could even be meanness. And the meanness comes from the cross of penetration that we're moving to. Nope. It's somewhere in there. People gathering stuff just just for the sake of gathering. Because there's this fear, there's this existential fear that's coming from this gate that is part of the new key. And so he says that in every era, there's always a fear gate. And these are the fear gates in the spleen. And there's always one fear in every era. And we're moving from the fear gate that is all about failure. Failure, I don't pass my tests, that I'm a failure, I'm no good at this, that, and the next thing, to a fear, an existential fear. Will I have enough? And yeah, there's a lot of selfishness, and I'm saying selfishness in a very neutral way. And that comes from gate 55 is it here? Yes, gate 55 in the sleeping phoenix, in the keys of the sleeping phoenix. That's where there's a possibility for meanness. There's also, because that's an emotional background frequency, it can also very well be that we're all going to be in the same emotion at any moment. And this is an emotional frequency of, it can be very still, and then there'll be spikes up, or there'll be spikes down. And so it's very sudden and erratic and strong, the way emotions could be operating. Yes.
So what kind of questions would you ask that type of profile? There's some way of picking their minds so we can be better acquainted to that type of fear to mediate.
Well, I think, you know, if you feel, we will become so aware of emotions and frequencies that we can just observe frequencies. We can just observe everybody around us spiking in their emotion and know that just the knowledge itself that this is the background frequency. It's okay. So everybody's crazy running around because something happened in the world. We don't do that anymore. We just know all is well. It's just a spike in the frequency. We don't have to go with that. We just wait a little bit, wait a few days, wait a week. If, you know, If necessary, wait a little longer than even a week, but it will go away, it will pass. And it's not me having it, and it's not because of something that's happening, it's the background frequency. Just that knowledge, just that stature, just a state of observing will be, I think, a very good way of dealing with it. And teaching that to our children, teaching them that, hey, this is something in the air, this is something that's coming, but it's not really going to affect your life right now if you don't let it affect your life right now. I'm just remembering now the 9/11. I was on a news fast, so I wasn't listening to any news. I was just happy and meditating and in the sunshine and having a good old time whilst the world was spiking. And then I was told afterwards, and it was like, oh, okay, I didn't actually really feel it anymore because I wasn't in that moment anymore.
It's funny to me how so much changes, but the system, the pattern stays the same. Also, the solution, you could say, stays the same. So there's all this information, and in the end, strategy and authority is what it comes back, like it always does in human design. It always comes back to strategy and authority. So you can know all this, and it's very interesting. But even if you know it and you grasp it, if you're not if you have no grasp of your strategy and authority, it won't serve you. It does nothing for you, because you'll be caught up in these new outer authorities or new things, in this new fear or in the new selfishness or in the new this thing. Yeah, so it's so much changes, and at the same time the pattern stays the same.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know that it's not like on this day in February 2027, you'll all of a sudden see everything crumbling. We're already feeling it now. What will be sudden is for those people who are sensitive enough to suddenly feel that shift in the background frequency. And then it will take time as the people born before 2027 die out and the new beings run the new world. That'll take 100 years, probably, for that to happen. He also said that there will be reduced fertility. And of course, we're already seeing that. Reduced fertility in the new children. And okay, where am I going here? Yes, relationships now have been about finding trust, finding loyalty when we bond with someone else. And we're bonding in that communal security. And there's this protection that happens in the bonding. And we're moving to something that is very individual. It's not that we're going to live alone, but it will be very, very individual how we bond and with whom we bond. Yeah, the sleeping phoenix. The sleeping phoenix, we have to awaken the sleeping phoenix. That's the whole idea behind this cross. And the sleeping phoenix, with this busyness in a sort of a sleepwalking way, if we wake them up, if we can wake them up gently, with love and direction, like you say, Marama, it is beautiful. It is beautiful when they reach sovereignty, because this 2034 channel can be a super slave. They're constantly working and not really thinking about anything. But when that being, the sleeping phoenix, wakes up and discovers their godliness, their sovereignty, that they are no slave to anybody, that's just going to be astounding. Yeah.
I was just thinking, my partner's, my children's father, he's a sleeping phoenix, but he's also a fire horse, which
Yeah.
is like a double burning of this solo, it's loneliness, it's like, it's such a, I don't think there are very many soul companions that could endure a sleeping phoenix. It's like I think they're great for reflectors, but because you can kind of gravitate a sense of their energy, and it doesn't have such a huge impact. But for, I don't know, just they're an enigma, like.
Yeah, and that's always, it might be true for one person, and it, another person might love the sleeping phoenix. I've seen relationships where one person is in the cross of the sleeping phoenix, and the other person absolutely adores the sleeping phoenix. So, yeah.
What was that?
There's going to be, what Ra Uru Hu says, there's going to be a lot less diversity in the way we live. So education will deteriorate, we know that. And so that is why all the things we learn until 2027 is very, very important, because after that we may not have access to all that learning anymore. And I think that too, we can already see, you Google something on the internet, well, all you get is book titles and music groups that have the title of what I'm looking for. And the algorithms are such that I can't find what I'm really looking for anymore. So in general, yes, we need to learn now what we need to know, and learning about how to survive is a good thing. So yes, also there are no keys that have anything to do with logic after 2027. There will be no pattern, no statistics, there will be no trains running on time, but there will be a lot of awareness about how to survive and about one's own identity. And again, it doesn't happen just like this, it's happening slowly, and it's just good to be aware of the changes. And all this dependency that we have will go away. The legal system will go away, and there will not be any support for dependencies anymore. Dependency also not just on other people, but dependency on electricity, or dependency on deliveries, or communities, or social security, or retirement, or hospitals, etc., etc. Pharma. Yeah, the media will dissolve. We can't.
Yay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just when we're getting used to Zoes too.
Yeah. But we can see this movement. Yeah. So that's where we're doing these Zooms now. So we're seeing it happen. Everybody's talking about communities. Everybody wants to live in community and trying to figure out how to live in community and how to be together. And this is where I say, from our experience, that human design needs to be a basis of a functional community, because all the communities we've looked at aren't really working. And what we found is that with human design, it's so much easier to explain how the other person is different from how I work. The uniqueness of every person becomes much more tangible. And also through human design, we realize it's mechanics. It's not that somebody's got bad intentions or wanting to harm somebody else. So it's just about the mechanics of how our electric circuit works.
It's
Yes.
fascinating. I pulled Jack's profile, my profile. We're both born on March 17th. He in 61 and I in 65. And where I'm open centers, he's closed. Where I'm closed, he's open. And it's a pretty neat blend. We go together very well.
Okay, so that means together you have all centers defined.
Yeah.
Okay, so I had a relationship like that. My husband was like that, he and I. And it worked really, really well as long as we are in sync. We were a team like this. And then when somebody needs to diverge and find a space of their own, it can become very limiting, because within the relationship, there's no exit. So if within the combined chart, there is one center that is undefined, then in that undefined center, there is space for going out into other fields, other energies, other realms. So again, not good, not bad. But I see what you're saying. It's that you're just like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Lorenz, anything?
No.
Because I could go into the individual gates now that are the keys that unlock, but I think that would be, maybe for another session. I think the main things we've covered, and hopefully it's understandable for everybody. And
it's a lot to comprehend,
What
and it's
about
just but slowly.
Yeah, it's a lot to comprehend. Took me a while. I think I haven't shown this one yet. Did I show this? No. So this is okay. So this is here you see the crosses. This is the Celtic cross, but you have the 21st of December, the 21st of June, and so these are the solstices, and these are the equinoxes. This is the cross of love. And these celebrations, Samhain, Beltane, Imbolc, and Lunash, is the cross of the Sphinx that gives us direction. So these are really, really powerful times of the year where something opens up, where we connect to an energy that covers the whole era, 2,000 something 100 years. So I think it's really the way I see it. On these days, really see where your energy is at. Look for the celebrations you can have on those days in one way or other, so that with these powerful energies, we are actually bringing through something wonderful, something good, because I know that other forces are using these days also.
So then those days would be the good days to set. Just watching Greg Braden's prayer, setting focus, imagining, and signing off with a closure. Those would be good days to use that, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. and be fully aware of what you're thinking. Always check your thoughts. Are they your own thoughts? Are they thoughts of a higher frequency? And the same with feelings. These are, yeah, the Druids knew what they were doing, I figure.
It's so good. My mother is a solace. She's in the dream.
She's
And
what?
my mother was born on the solstice, and
Okay.
then I'm born on the equinox.
Wow, how powerful. Oh, of course, with the vessel of love.
We're
So
both vessel of love, yeah.
you're both vessels of love. My goodness. Yes. Find the people who unlock your love. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just getting
So
those
cool.
names that you just put, which was Letha, and
We can put the
There.
picture into the Telegram so you have time to write it all down.
Everything I shared, I'll put in Telegram. So here you've got a jewel. That's still a common word. Litha, Ostara, Easter, Mabon, and then we all know about Halloween, which is called Samhain, spelled Samhain, but pronounced Samhain. And yeah, Beltane, the 1st of May. Imbolc on the 1st of February. And Lunyash, also an interesting spelling, Lughnasadh. Lunyash on the 1st of August. I'll put it in the Telegram group. Okay, what I'll do now